you are in it, right? You're working, you're killing yourself slowly, let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
How can you take a step back from all this madness?
You have to do something that I call kill the baby in the car.
As the person who experiences all of these challenges, what is the first step that somebody can take towards wellness? And wellness not from a physical standpoint, also from a mental standpoint.
Right.
For most people, is it a good idea to join an entrepreneurs group?
I don't think so. It's another thing to do, for you to be worried about, for you to show up.
So talk to us about that. That's such a different perspective. Donato, welcome. I think the last time I saw you was about 18 months ago. We haven't really seen one another. Yeah, it's been 18 months now, man. Almost one and a half years.
You look so different. Holy
Yeah.
crap, man. Congrats.
Yeah.
Looking good.
Yeah, thank you. Well, for everybody that's listening, you and I, we met about 3.5 years ago, actually. Almost 4 years ago. You did an event for EO South Florida, which was a Wim Hof event with the cold exposure, the ice.
And the breathwork.
And the breathwork. And at that moment, I was having some difficulties personally. From a business standpoint, I was working way too much. I was on Adderall, and I needed help.
Yeah.
And you were there to offer that help for me, and I'm really, really grateful for that. Talk to us about what you've done for the past few years. Tell us a little bit about what your background is.
Well, brother, I mean, well, first of all, thank you for having me, man. This is awesome. And to see one of my old friends be doing so well is always something worth celebrating. So just being with you today makes my day, man. So thank you. I've been busy. I've been busy doing some really cool stuff, man. Doing some really cool stuff. When you and I met, it was when I was, and I'm still doing a lot of the Wim Hof method work, a lot of the Wim Hof method events. I'm one of the most active Wim Hof method instructors, I think, worldwide at this point. I have my Miami Ice Club, the place where we get together for breathwork and ice baths and community. And we have a bunch of locations now. When you met me, we were already, solid, but now we're, blessed, blowing up. We have a bunch of locations, a bunch of new teachers that I've trained to kind of pick up where I started, right? Kind of, I got to do what I teach you to do. That you can't be showing up to work all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but just like the Ice Club at that time was a startup, just like any other startup. The founder needs to be there cranking it, but you can't stay like that for too long. And but for me, always the Wim Hof events have been a great tool that I use for corporate building, right? That's why you met me with the EO. So I do a lot of corporate team building events. But more than anything, these are my leaders to the integrative living work that you became, I want to say, one of the biggest proponents and promoters of it. And for me, it's been focusing on that, on the integrative living coaching. And for those that may not be familiar with the work, it's a coaching program, it's really a lifestyle system, a lifestyle model that I created a long time ago while I was working for some luxury hospitality brands that wanted to be differentiated from their competition in terms of wellness. And I created this model that offered wellness experiences for the hyper successful people. Those people have very specific demands and very specific needs, so we created a very, very specific program that created experiences that they could only get at those locations of the resorts that we were running. That was very successful and it worked very, very well, but once I left the company, I had a lot of people continuing to reach out, a lot of the people that were working with me and saying, hey, that thing that you taught us to create wellness programs, we're starting to apply it to our team to our team management. We're starting to apply it to our personal lives. It's changed the way that we look at the restaurant. It's changed a lot of the things that we do. And I realized that there was a lot of potential for what was called back then integrative wellness to become a lifestyle program. That's why I changed it into integrative living. I've evolved it a little bit, and it ended up falling in this entrepreneurs and C-suite individuals because it helps them not only become very, very productive at work. And productive doesn't mean what most people think, which productive is they think it means this, how can I just work more? Like, how can I produce more? It's like, it's definitely not by working more. It's definitely going to be by taking care of yourself more. So I found this niche with these startups or in the startup entrepreneur is a little too busy and too in the weeds to really be able to do this work. And I think that when we met, you were kind of at that, you were transitioning from the startup stage to, am I gonna blow this up or not, right? And I think that that's the moment where I come in, and that's the moment where I start coming in and being really, really helpful, and then ongoing from there, right? How do I help the person remember that they are a person? How do I help the entrepreneur remember that before they were an entrepreneur, they were also a person? And how do I reconnect them with that? Because what a lot of people do to survive their startups is they create two personalities, right? They have the personality of me, the startup founder, and then me, which is 45 minutes left, which I'm just gonna dump on, wasting them on social media while I'm on the toilet hiding from my wife. So, and in the meantime, I'll do all kinds of crazy things. I'll party too much, I'll do a bunch of drugs, I'll try to book a bunch of conferences so that I can go and hang out and go to strip clubs and do a bunch of cocaine. And at the beginning I wasn't so open about talking about that because I felt like it was a thing that only happened to certain people. But we were laughing earlier before we started recording how common that is.
It has nothing to do with wellness.
It has nothing to do with wellness, right? It's the opposite. And it has nothing to do with success. And it has nothing to do with becoming more productive. It's the opposite, but it is the culture, right? So what I've been doing and what I've been busy with is running this integrative living sprints where I invite 4 of these people at a time and I coach them. They work together, so they hold each other accountable, but at the same time, I work one-on-one with them so that they can really achieve powerful results in 2 months. So instead of having this ongoing relationship like we had, because we worked together for almost 2 years, which was great, because clearly you're doing great. So super proud of that. And you're not working nearly as much as you used to.
Yeah.
You don't even check your emails anymore.
No.
Back then, you used to check your emails while you were in an ice bath. I remember.
Yeah.
So we've come a long way. But I do 2 months because for me, it's in the first 2 months, we can get all of it done. After that, I feel like I become too much of your friend and your babysitter, right? I either become your friend or your babysitter. And I'd rather be your friend but not work together. And maybe just be able to celebrate the stuff that we've done and stay supporting each other in our new endeavors like this, right? You're like, hey, I have a podcast now. You want to be on it? Sure, buddy, let's do it. And have a friend's relationship now because I want all my clients to outgrow me. I don't want to be your coach forever. It's not like a lot of other coaches that they'd rather suck you into another program and another program. I have one program, and you graduate from it, and you're not allowed to join it ever again.
Well, let's talk about the story. I think it's important for everybody to know the story. This was about 3.5 years ago. I was struggling. I was overweight. I was taking some medication. I was on Adderall.
Yep.
And I remember you telling me, you got to get off of Adderall. And I remember thinking, this guy's out of his mind. I'm not going to get out of Adderall. Adderall is the reason that I'm successful. Adderall is the reason that I want to work. Adderall is the reason that I can put in 60 hours a week. And I remember having these conversations with you. And I remember knowing that I need help, but I also remember not knowing what to do or what the next step should be. And you and I, we were speaking right before we started recording. We hear these stories a lot. There was an EO member in South Florida recently that committed suicide. I know at least 8 friends in the past 7 years from different business groups that committed suicide. As a coach, as the person who experiences all of these challenges with your clients, what is the first step that somebody can take towards wellness? And wellness not from a physical standpoint, also from a mental standpoint.
The first thing that people have to do is to stop believing in this mind, body, spirit paradigm. It is toxic. The way that we look at the human being is disintegrative, right? Because we say, well, I have this body, and I have this physical health, and I have this mind, and I have this mental health, and I have this spirit, and I have this spiritual health or part of me, right? And that's toxic because it allows you to take care of one and dismiss the other, or prioritize one and then leave the other one behind. But the reality is that animals, and we are animals, don't have mind, bodies, and spirits. They just live, and they do natural life. They don't excuse themselves and the way that they live unnaturally by saying, you know what, my job is very stimulating mentally because, you know, I'm problem solving and I'm talking to people and blah, blah, blah. So my mind is fine, but my body, I'm gaining weight. So I know that I need to go to the gym. But of course you wake up every day and you don't go to the gym. That's why you were overweight. Right? Now you go to the gym every day at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. was the time when you started getting busy back then. And now you're like, that's when you cut it off and you go to the gym. So for me, is first of all, stop pretending that you can separate your body and your mind and your spirit. All of it needs to be together because you are all together. If you don't do that, then you start creating these excuses that start pulling you apart. So first of all, it's the first thing that you got to do if you're going to be well, it's stop pretending that you can piecemeal your existence and take care of it later. Because you will not take care of it later, because that's what I'm finding. You know exactly that you need to go to, everyone that's listening to this knows that they should work out, and they don't. Not I'm not saying that not everyone works out, but if you don't work out, it's not a novel piece of information that you need to work out. You know that. You don't need a coach for that. What a coach is interesting at is helping you understand why you don't go, even though you know you should go. And I think that it is this, that it is that you can't keep leaving your health for later. And you can't keep using, so that's one. Now, I think that the first step is like you need to stop pretending that this can be procrastinated upon. You need to get to it now, right? It's urgent. And the other thing that a lot of people don't do is that they never look at what it would cost them if they didn't. Right? You came to me very honest, where you said, if I don't do something, I'm okay right now, but if I don't do something in 4 years, I'm going to kill myself. You tell me that one time. And I was like, well, okay, we need to fucking do something. You're not telling me I'm going to do it now, but you said, I could see where I'm going, and I could see where people who've been doing this for a while are going, and I'm no different, so this is going to be, you know, this is going to be bad. I'm going to lose my family. I'm going to hurt myself. Something bad's going to happen. So we have to stop pretending that this is not real. How many more entrepreneurs need to kill themselves before we all realize that the way we do entrepreneurship is
overcompensation. That's another.
Yeah.
You know, I see a lot of people, and it's so crazy. Once you have gone through the experience yourself, you see where somebody is headed. You see the little patterns. You see you see certain actions that they're taking. Mm-hmm. It's and there's only one way to describe it. It's overcompensation. You're overworking yourself. Mm-hmm. You're slowly killing yourself, yep, thinking that you're reaching an objective that doesn't exist. You get the 3 million, you're gonna want 4. You get the 4 million, you're gonna want 6. Right? You know, like the growth is never there. It's and we have these conversations when I ask people, what's the number? You know, it's from that movie, it's more. The number is more. There is no number. So it's a losing game. But you are, and I want to mention this, you have this skill set where you're able to provide a different perspective to your clients without making them feel guilty, without really forcing them to change, without really telling them to change, nope, but you give these different perspectives. You've given me 4 or 5 of these really small perspectives that I mention every single time, right? So talk to me about how that all came about. Why do you think you're so good at providing that perspective to, let's say, entrepreneurs or business owners that don't really want to change?
Well, well, thank you for that first, because I love the work that I do. So for me, it's I kind of do it because I love it and it helps people, and I love helping people. What I think makes me a little different, and is that, well, first of all, I'm an engineer. So other than a wellness professional, I studied electrical and computer engineering. As a kid, I was always fascinated by how things worked. I did work in corporate for a while. I did 3 or 4 or 5 startups, I think now. So I have lived the startup and the corporate life. But because I'm so committed to my wellness, I never went in it so deep that now I'm hanging from it, you know? So there's that. But the other thing is that I know that there is a way to help you see things in a way that your brain won't resist it, right? I studied a lot of neuroscience, a lot of developmental psychology, because it was a curiosity and a passion of mine, because I wanted to understand how the machine works, right? So that, because if you understand how the machine works, you can drive it harder, right? I learned that from also being an amateur race car driver, right? One of my hobbies is building and racing race cars. So I understood that the more I understand the machine, the harder I can drive it, the more efficient I can be at making it do what I want it to do. So for me, that's always been the driving force behind trying to understand, why are you stuck? Like, why is this, and not that you're a machine, because that is so silly to compare a person to a machine, but why does a system get stuck? And as an engineer, I like looking and finding it. But then as a wellness practitioner and as a person who is able to empathize with other people, and then, you know, all the different experiences that I've had in my life, you know, I'm a martial artist, I'm a yoga instructor, I'm a meditation instructor, I'm a firearms instructor, I race, race cars, motorcycles, I build furniture, I do so many, I do theater. You know, I also do theater and improv and stand-up. So I find ways that I can use humor, or I can use wit, or I can use intelligence, or I can use nerdiness, right? Because I mean, most entrepreneurs are nerds anyways nowadays. So I use a little bit of nerdiness, or maybe I'll talk about whatever it is that I need to, whatever I have to do to tailor the message to you, I'll do, so that I can bypass the defense mechanisms of the myelin, the substances in your brain that are resisting change, right? So I'll be like, okay, this guy's kind of stuck here. Let me see if I can come in through this angle. And I'm very invested in that. I am not, what I think makes me very different is that I am not interested in coaching 1,000 people at a time. Because my magic sauce cannot be done like that. You know what I mean? I need to be able to talk to you. I need to be able to understand you. I need to be able to hear you, and then figure out a way to go around your brain. Because you want to change. You want to heal. But your brain's not designed for that. Your brain's not designed. Your brain can adapt and can change. But your brain is designed for resisting change, for saving energy, and for minimizing risk. Change always requires energy and exposes risk. Right? So even you wanting to quit Adderall, and you're like, fuck that. That wasn't you wanting to not quit Adderall, because you came to me saying, I want to get healthy. Whatever you tell me, I want to do. That was you. Right? Yeah. But your brain was like, fuck that. I have this story. Right? It's because of Adderall that I'm successful. It's because of Adderall that I can put 60 hours. And all these stories, I'm like, it's also because of Adderall that you're working 100 hours. Yeah. Right? But that's your brain. So I had to come up with stories and strategies. I love storytelling, and I love painting pictures in people's minds, because I understand that if I can paint an interesting picture, I can get you to lean in. I can get your attention. And now all of a sudden I bypass the defense mechanisms of your brain, the resistance, the patterns, because I'm telling you a story, and you're getting sucked into my narrative, right? I'm going to use, hey, you're a marketing guy. You know the power of a story. I'm sucking you into my product. And my product is helping you, right? But your brain doesn't want to buy it, right? It's the same work that you do to convince people to buy a trinket is the same work that I do to convince you to quit Adderall, or to go to the gym, or to get in an ice bath, or to do breathwork, or to go on dates with your wife, or to or to hire an assistant, or to get some business operations coaching, so that we can, one of my latest strategies is I want you to my entrepreneurs that grew the company and now they're fucking hanging by it, right? It's like, I want you to write your job description and hand it over to a coach, to a business operations coach, right? And help him fire yourself from anything else other than that job position, right? So, and when you talk to most entrepreneurs and startup guys, they want to do one or two things. They want to work on R&D, that's if they're nerds, or they want to work on business dev, on biz dev, right? They want to be in the conferences talking, shaking hands, and building the business. But nobody wants to be operating their business. Nobody wants to be looking at the numbers. They don't want to be doing that. They don't want to be answering emails. None of that stuff. They either want to be developing the stuff, or they want to be doing the meetings and doing the conferences. So that's great. You build this company that's cranking out millions of dollars. You have the right to pick your job. So write the job description, hand it over. So this is the type of stuff that I think makes me very different. The other thing is that I am not a business coach because I don't believe in business coach.
That's the interesting part.
Right.
You've given me so many business concepts without telling me that they're business concepts. Like, let's talk about one example. I remember one day you were talking about, I'm going to introduce you to this concept of elegance.
Oh, cool.
Let's talk about that. And then after elegance, I'm going to introduce you to the concept of getting out of the way of life. Like, this is important. Like, you're working with these people who are managing 50, 100, 200 employees. We're not accountable to anybody. We don't listen to nobody.
Nope.
We don't give a shit.
No.
So how do you, and I'm still amazed by this, like, how do you make up these little concepts where you break through to these people that nobody can break through? Like, that's your skill set, that's your talent, in my opinion, which was, and I would go to my wife and I would go to my friends, I was like, wow, I don't think I've met anybody as wise as Donato in that aspect where, marketing is like that too. You have to provide a new perspective. If you don't provide a new perspective, you're not selling shit.
Exactly.
You gotta give a new perspective, but you're so good at this in the sense that you do this dynamically, based on the story that I'm telling you. And you do that. You go around. Right. So I want to talk about some of these concepts that you've given me.
Elegance is a good one. Elegance is a good one because who doesn't want to be elegant, right? Plus, you would show up to coaching dressed up like that. So clearly you value elegance. Fair?
Yes.
So I'm watching you and I'm like, okay, this guy, if I talk about elegance, this guy's going to bite, right? Now, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, working 80 hours a week, is that elegant?
No.
Or is that kind of, what's the opposite of elegant? Rough?
Yeah.
That's rough.
Rough, rash.
Rash, that's kind of ghetto.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just, it's not, it's not elegant. When you see an elegant woman, you're like, wow, that's elegant. She may not necessarily be the most beautiful, the most voluptuous, the most whatever, but when you notice elegance, you're like, that's nice. When you see a car that's elegant, you're like, oof, that's elegant. You can see that same car with, giant chrome wheels that spin, painted purple, and you're like, I don't know about that, right? So you kind of overdid it, right? So elegance is this thing where you're like, there. Elegant is like when you go to like an omakase and the guy's like, here, rice, fish. And you're like, sure, rice and fish. Oh, right? And you're like, this is amazing. To me, elegance is something that we can all aspire to, right? But I wouldn't say elegant if someone was just showing up in flip-flops and whatever, but I could tell that you're like, oh, this guy kind of gets it. So if I ask you, do you value elegance? You would say, even back in the day, you were like, yeah, look at me, look at my shoe, look at my watch, look at my suit, look at my pin, look at my thing, right? And I'm like, well, but is that, do you really though? So I'm like, and I'm going to get you defensive. I'm going to get you a little pissed off. I'm going to be like, well, do you think 60 hours a week? Do you think 100 hours a week is elegant?
I think the conversation was, I was losing my, I was reacting to my team. I was getting angry.
Oh, you were getting angry with your team, right?
I was raising my voice,
Yeah.
and that's when you mentioned this concept, which is like, look, you cannot be the person who loses his shit. You're the captain.
You're the captain of the boat. You know?
So that was very
You have to be
interesting.
elegant. You have to have that tact. You have to have this. You know, I've always been inspired by the great martial arts masters and the legends of how they could do and break your arm. You know what I mean? Or like Bruce Lee with his 1-inch punch. Or just these master artists that are like, look at that. And now, it's amazing. It's just elegant. Elegance is fluid, efficient, effective, almost magical results, right? So which entrepreneur is not interested in that?
Yeah.
Right? So when I'm talking about elegance, I just picked elegance versus, because if I talk about efficiency, which is the same thing I'm talking about, by the way, right?
Yeah.
So if I say, I'm going to teach you how to be more efficient, your brain's like, fuck you, I'm going to close off right now. But if I talk about elegance, you're like, what is he going to talk about? Is it going to be, because I am elegant, right? So now I'm not talking about business. But that's the thing, I don't do business because I don't believe in business coaches. Because once again, business coaches is, let's pretend that you have this part of your life, which is your business. Let's ignore everything else. Let's just look at business. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea to kind of isolate this part of your life. And I'm sure there's a point in that. But the common ground between your business life and your family life and your secret life that you don't want to talk about and all these things, it's you. The common thread is you. So I talk to you. And I give you concepts that I know you are going to listen to. And of course they're going to apply in business. And of course they're going to apply with your wife. And of course they're going to apply with your buddies. Right? Because that concept of elegance now is churning in your head. And also, and like you said, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just gonna go viral in your brain with this concept that now you are, because here's the thing about entrepreneurs, you guys are obsessive. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're going to become obsessed of where am I not being elegant? And all of a sudden you're hunting. And entrepreneurs and businessmen love hunting. So I'm tricking you into taking care of yourself. Pretty much, right? Because I'm using a concept that bypassed your resistance, your brain's resistance.
You mentioned something. Most business owners want to do either R&D because they're nerds. They want to build products. They want to build things. They want to strategize. They want to productize, right? Or they want to do business development. It's funny you said that because those are the two things I want to do. I want to productize. I want to strategize. And then I want to do business development. I want to meet a lot of people, and I want to sell to a lot of people, and I want them to sell to me, and I want to find my next partner in business, et cetera, et cetera. Just before we started recording, you gave me yet another concept, which was, we were talking about business groups like EO, YPO, Young Entrepreneurs Council. I mentioned that I'm taking a role in Young Entrepreneurs Council.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
And then you said this, which is very interesting. For most people, is it a good idea to join an entrepreneurs group?
I don't think so.
So talk to us about that. That's such a different perspective because we're all raised by saying the more people you know, the more network you have, the more people you meet, more opportunities, more clients, more perspectives. But your perspective is the fact that not everybody is ready to be in these business groups. Talk to us about that.
Not at all, man. It's another thing to do. It's another thing to do. It's another thing for you to be worried about and for you to be planning for and for you to show up. Now, a lot of what these groups do, and I teach at a ton of these, so I would never. I'm not saying that this is not a valuable tool. I think that right now, any entrepreneur that has 40 grand burning a hole in their pocket could join. And they do, right? And there's more and more of these groups popping up. And to me, they're kind of all the same, right? But a lot of these, and they're great for networking. They're great for having a place where you find peers, where you can have conversations about the same struggles. And at the same time, is just another thing to do. It's another room where you may walk in and feel inadequate because, oh, fuck, I mean, I just joined. My company only makes 5 million. And look at this guy. His company makes 20,000 million or whatever is there, 20 million, or whatever the number is. So now maybe you're surrounded by, in theory, people who can help you move forward, but that's only if you're ready for that.
More pressure.
Or it ends up being sometimes for some people, more pressure, or just another thing to do that you never really squeeze the juice out of, right? So now you're getting more emails. Now you're getting more texting groups. Now you're getting more invitations. Now you're getting more stuff. And also a lot of these groups are prioritizing wellness, and they're doing a lot of really good work to emphasize the fact that the entrepreneur and the business people's community is struggling with mental health issues, is struggling with burnout issues. So there's a lot more of that. And still there's a lot more of the happy hour and then let's go get wasted and let's go to the strip clubs and do all that shit, which is fine because it's fun, you know, and I would never demonize that because I do believe that there's a value in everything, right? And sometimes when we're talking, and some of our conversations, if brought out of context, they'll be like, "Oh, you're anti this." I'm like, "Nah, I'm anti nothing. I'm pro everything, but I'm also pro, let's not overdo it, right?" So to me, these groups are a great tool, but nowadays, most entrepreneurs are so overwhelmed to begin with, and they're constantly saying yes to the invites and yes to the meetings and yes to the things, and this just becomes another yes thing that we say, and it keeps adding to the plate. And what I think right now, the biggest secret and the biggest thing that most entrepreneurs could do is stop thinking that more is better. Better is better, right? Better is the only thing that's better. More is never better. More is just more. And it will require more energy, and it will require more effort, and it will require more time, and you don't have any more of it. You're out of it. I know it because I've been there, and you're burnt out. Right, and you, of course, you have you hopefully have a family, or maybe you wanted to have a family, and now you started a family when you were starting your business, and now the business is a thing, and now your kids are terrorists, and you don't know how to fix it. It's a mess, and it's more and more and more. As your company grows, you should be doing less, and if that's not in your business plan, you're fucked. And I cannot say it in any other term, because you will bury yourself under the weight of your business. Mm-hmm. And what's the point of having a successful business if you can't cash out of it, or if you can't enjoy your life, or if you can't take a vacation, or if you can't trust anyone underneath you because everyone's an idiot, because everyone that you hire is incapable according to your brain, right? Because every entrepreneur that you ask, their employees are all retarded. And you're like, how is that possible?
One thing that we all have in common is the significance that we feel. And that was another thing that you taught me. This was so crazy when you gave me this concept, which was, you're setting up everybody to fail. You told me this. And I was like, this guy's crazy. What do you mean? I empower my team. I send them to training seminars. I give them all the resources. I spend almost $500,000 on tools on an annual basis so my team learns. But you said something. You basically said that it gives me significance to solve the problem in 5 minutes and then to tell everybody, look, this is how you do it. And I solved it in 5 minutes. And that prompted me to micromanage more and do stuff that I shouldn't be doing more, right? That was another concept. So my question to you is, you are in it, right? You're working, you're killing yourself slowly. Let's call it what it is. How can you take a step back from all this madness?
Okay. You have to do something that I call kill the baby in the car. That's a great concept that we work with in integrative living. You have to kill the baby in the car. What this means is, imagine if you were a crack addict. I'm just gonna go, let's just go crazy on this one so that it stings more. You're hooked on crack, which some of people listening to this and are entrepreneurs, maybe they're not hooked on crack, but they're hooked on a variant of crack, like cocaine or Adderall or whatever, antidepressants, whatever. They're not crack, but they're they're not crack because you don't understand chemistry. But if you did, they're crack, right? So, but let's say that you're just hooked on good old street crack, right? And you have your baby in your car, and you're driving around because you're a good father and a good entrepreneur and also secretly a crackhead. And you're driving around and you're stuck in traffic. So Waze says you got to make a left. So you make a left and you're like, man, that's right where my crack house is. And now you're stuck in traffic and you're like, I mean, I could park and say what's up to the guys, but I have my baby in my car. I'm a good dad and I value family. So, I mean, and you say, well, the light just turned red. So you know what? I'm just gonna stop by and say hi. Just say hi to the guys, see how they're doing. Maybe I'll just buy a little crack, but I'm not gonna smoke it. I'm just gonna, just take it home. My wife is not here, so it's a good time, and the kid's not gonna know because it's a baby, so fuck it. So you're like, well, you park the car, and you're like starting to tweak a little bit, and you're all excited, and you're looking at the door, and you're looking at your baby, and like, well, I'm not gonna bring my baby in the crack house because I'm a good dad and I value family, so I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna get in the crack house with a baby, so I'm just gonna leave the baby in the car. Just I'm gonna leave just gonna leave the AC on or whatever, and I'll be in and out, just real fast. Of course, that that's not a good thing to do, but your patterns and your brain and your addictions are now driving you, right? And we can all relate to that. So you go inside of the crack house and you're like, hey, what's going on, guys? And everyone's like, hey, Duran, you're here. Nice to see you, man. Hey, we got this new crack. You gotta try it. And you're like, no, I got my kid in the car, and you know how I'm a family man, and I don't really do crack. I just stop by to say hi. I mean, I do it sometimes, but I just wanted to see how the company was doing, right? This crack house, this new location. So dude, just take a little hit. You see, it's nice. It's got a nice. It's a woody finish. And you're like, all right, sure. Well, no, but as my kid's like, your kid's gonna be fine. So you're like, all right. So you take a hit. And boom, you're out. And then when you come back, you're like, fuck, okay. And you go, you're like, man, you said that it was nice, right? It's like, it was crazy. I was like, And I don't know how crack works because I haven't smoked crack, so maybe I'm making stuff up. But it's just an example. And then you walk out and you get to the car and your baby has been in the car for hours and you didn't know. And of course, your phone blew up 1 million messages from everybody and your kid is dead. Now, is that a good time to quit crack? Now? Is that enough? Right? Did that have to happen for you to figure it out? Right? Well, it didn't have to happen, but it turns out it did have to happen for you to figure it out, right? So that's now reality. And now you're in it. So what we don't realize is that our patterns and we like to call them patterns so that we don't call them addictions, right? But our addictions can drive us to do some really unethical, or not unethical, but to move and to act against our values, right? Because you can claim that you're a family guy all day and then put 120 hours a week of work. Which family guy does that? No family guy does that. So we're all lying to ourselves about what we value, or we're constantly being dishonest to ourselves and living against our values.
I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it so that my kids can go to better schools.
Whatever. But I'm
doing it so that I can bring more nephews to go to school in the United States from
my
Istanbul,
country, right?
from my country. I'm doing it so that I can employ more people and give them more opportunities, give more opportunities to more people.
Yeah, I'm doing it so that I can help more people. Yeah. I'm doing it, this, and once again, it's just you feeding your own ego and doing your significance, whatever people like to call it. There's other business coaches that call it significance, importance. I'm like, it's all shit. It's all you just stroking your own ego and ultimately lying to yourself. Because who cares how rich you are or how successful your company is if you're going to die, right? So notice that when we were imagining the baby dying in the car, the energy changed, right? We already felt it. So we were like, wow, that would be really bad. So the concept that I have is, but by the way, there was no baby. I made up the baby. I made up the crack addiction. Fair? Like, I'm not a crack. You're not a crackhead. There's no crack house, right? All of it was invented. But I just talked about it. And I told the story in a very specific way And now when I told you that the baby died, you got teary-eyed. And we all felt it, right? So our brain is very powerful at simulating costs, at doing risk analysis. So instead of using that to slow us down, because you're like, oh, I'm thinking I need to hire some people. And your brain's like, maybe you won't be able to pay them. That's risk analysis, but it's really a story for you to not change. We can use that system also to do a simulation of risk analysis when we go that route, right? So I just made you imagine a baby that doesn't exist. Do you have a baby?
No.
I don't have a baby either, but we were both very concerned about the life of that baby that I made up in my head and that your brain signed up for. And now this baby is dead, and now we're both about to cry. So we can use that in our favor. So this is what I do. I tell people, kill the baby in the car already. What is it going to cost you if you keep living this way? Let's go down that rabbit hole. And we just start talking about it. You're like, so what is it going to be? So, okay, so you're going to keep gaining weight. And then what's going to happen? And then, you're going to have hypertension. Okay, and then what's going to happen? You're going to have a heart condition. Okay, cool. So now you're sick as shit. That's a good way to look at it. Let's go somewhere else. How's your wife doing? And you're like, oh, I don't know about that. It's like, okay, so how's that relationship? Is it going? Is it evolving or is it falling apart? It's falling apart. So if you don't change, what's going to happen? If you keep working that way, what's going to happen? So we just go, and that's called killing the baby in the car. Instead of waiting until everything takes an unrepairable toll, why not use this simulator that we have in our head and imagine what it would feel? And then you're going to have a feeling. You're going to feel it. You're going to be like, fuck, the love of my life is going to hate me. My kids are going to grow up and they're not going to respect me. And they're going to pick up on a lot of the stuff that I did. They're going to be in marriages that they don't want. They're going to become drug addicts. Instead of just being so concerned of sending them to the best school. Oh, I got to work more so I can send my kids to the best school so that they can just buy more expensive drugs in the hallways. You know what I mean? It's like, so what's the point of us? But we're always doing it for this goal. But then everything else falls apart. So a great tool, and everyone can do that. It doesn't cost anything other than having the courage of sitting down and asking yourself the question, if I don't change, if this keeps going the way that it's going, right? Yeah, maybe your business keeps going up. But what about the rest of you? I don't want to say the rest of your life because I don't want to separate you from your life. What about the rest of you? Okay, so this project that you have, your business, this idea that you created keeps developing. But your health keeps decaying, but your family life keeps decaying. Your values are just no longer in integrity, right? Your values are, and at the end of the day, is that who you want to be? You want to be rich and lonely and also devoid of any substance and values, right? So I guess, when you ask the questions, what's the number? And the answer is always more, right? I guess what's the number? How much do I have to give you to sacrifice your values? That's an interesting question, right? Because you're like, how much do I have to give you to not give a fuck about your family? Let's say you have kids. Okay, let's do something. You care about your kids? Good. How much is it for you to not care about them? No one's going to tell you a fucking number because they'll resist that question forever. They're going to be like, I will always care about my kids. Really? When was the last time you spent some time with them? You never did it. So it's like you're already for free doing it, right?
We're more in love with the idea of growth than growth itself. We're more in love with the idea of wellness than wellness itself. Mm-hmm. We do these things where it's almost like show.
Of course.
And we're missing the point, and that's the next thing that I want to mention really quickly is there's a physical element to this. You're a Wim Hof instructor. Mm-hmm. There is something that happens when you go into ice water. Mm-hmm. There's something that happens when you meditate, when you breathe. And when I see people now, friends or acquaintances, that they have depression and they're going through a difficult time, they've lost somebody that is important to them, they've lost a loved one, I almost always say meditation, breathing exercises, ice therapy. Talk to us about that. What does that do to you physically? Why is that a good first step for somebody to do?
I think it is a good first step for people to do because it's easy to do, right? It's not more magical than other things. I think that out of all the wellness possibilities, breathwork and cold exposure and meditation are the lowest barrier of entry. So you can be struggling and do it. Where, go kite surfing. Yeah, that's great. But, I can't do it right now, right? Breathwork takes 20 minutes, cold exposure takes 3 minutes, and meditation takes 12 minutes. So now meditation would be the least favorite of those three for me. For me, it's like, you know what, you're struggling, go take a cold shower. Go take a cold shower, come back, we'll talk after the cold shower. Or then, hey, here's a breathwork recording, lay down, do some breathwork. What it does to your body, right? So let's talk. Breathwork is a thing, cold exposure is a different one, and the meditation it's similar but different. So cold exposure does something very specific, which is it puts your body in, especially if it's a really cold shower, right? Or an ice bath. If you don't have an ice bath, I don't care, go take a cold shower. If I just said go take a cold shower and you resisted it, it's cold enough. Go and do it. You know what I mean? Sometimes people in Miami are like, oh, but the showers are not cold enough in Miami. I'm like, oh, great. So you're taking cold showers all the time, right? And they're like, no, I still take warm showers. And I'm like, then they're cold enough for you, right? Because if your brain has a reaction to it, go do it, right? So your brain wants to manage things by reducing movement, right? By reducing change, by reducing, your brain is willing to buy you time, right? But it's not willing to make a big change. It's not designed for that, and that's okay. That's a good brain. If your brain is resisting, it's good. If your brain was not resisting, that would be concerning, right? So it's like, if I say, go take a cold shower, and your brain's like, let's do it. Either you're used to it and you know the benefit, or you're crazy, right? So it's, if you're like, cold shower, no way. Go do a cold shower, right? The idea is, it'll put your body in a momentary state of alert, of shock, right? And it'll do that by exposing it to a force of nature. Cold is a force of nature. So it'll trigger a natural response, right? You being stressed because of emails, you made that up. You made up being stressed because of emails. I'll say that again. You invented being stressed about your emails. Because before you had a company, emails didn't stress you. Emails are not a natural stressor of the man, of the human. Emails are a made-up stressor that we all agree that we should be stressed about. But when we all look at our inboxes, most of them are garbage anyways. Most emails shouldn't be in your inbox. But we're still obsessed with inbox zero. Oh my God. When people are like, I achieved inbox zero today. I'm like, you should have spent time with your kids, right? So,
you need a life.
Yeah, get a life, fucker. It's inbox zero is nothing to be proud about. So it's like, that's the stuff we're bragging about, right? Or I did a 10-minute cold plunge today, and I put it in my Instagram channel. Oh, great. It's like, how many times have you done? Oh no, this is my third time that I do it. I'm like, dude, when you've been doing cold plunges for a year, that you'll be proud about. Anyone can buy a cold plunge right now, sit in it, put a camera, and do it. When you're bored of doing them, so bored of doing them that you won't even talk about it, now you're doing it, right? So, but anyways, it puts you in a state of shock, right? And it puts you in a state of natural shock, which is our highest priority. Not your made up first world problems. We're freezing. That's a real problem. It'll bypass all of the rest. So yeah, your body will vasoconstrict. You'll release some norepinephrine, some cortisol, which is not a bad thing to release. It's just a bad thing to hold on to, right? So you release some cortisol. You release some norepinephrine, which will help you flush out the cortisol. It'll be anti-inflammatory. It'll contract all your veins, which they rarely do because they're always expanding, because you're always overheating, because you're overworking, because you're overdoing, right? So it'll restore your body to a natural state of alertness. And with that, you can focus on what is happening instead of what you thought was happening. And a great example is like, oh my God, if my company fails, what's going to happen to everyone? Everyone's going to be fine. Nobody gives a fuck about your company. There's a gazillion other companies in the world. I know you care because you made it up, but nobody gives a shit. And you shouldn't give a shit either. I mean, you should care, but you shouldn't die for it. right? Especially how easy it is to start a new one, right? Right? The first company is hard to start. The third company, you started in your sleep, right? You had AI started for you, right? So it's like, ah. So the cold exposure will snap you out of this made up stress that you have. And it'll give you a momentary clear vision. Now, breathwork will do something very similar, but it'll be a little different in the sense that now you're not being shocked by cold, but you're going to be shocked. And when I say breathwork, I recommend Wim Hof method breathwork is the one that I've worked with the most. At the Ice Club, we teach. We don't teach exactly the Wim Hof method, but it's similar. But we tweak some things. But if you want to look up our breath recordings, or if you want to look up Wim Hof method breathwork, as long as it's taught by Wim Hof and not by some rogue teacher pretending to know what they're doing, right? You follow that. And the protocol is designed to hyperoxygenate your bloodstream, so give you a lot of oxygen, and then deprive you of oxygen during the long extended breath holds. And people are like, oh, I can hold my breath for 6 minutes now. Should I go for 7 minutes? It's not about more. It's about giving your body this contrast of being so oxygenated and then going into a deep state, a deep hypoxic state, a deep state of low oxygen, which once again triggers all the alarms in your system, releases cortisol, releases norepinephrine, releases red blood cells, which help you carry more oxygen and nutrients to your system. And then when you recover yourself and breathe again, you start releasing dopamine. But you release dopamine because you just saved yourself from dying. Because you were holding your breath and your oxygen levels were so low, and now you saved your own life. That's what dopamine was invented for, right? So that your brain rewards an activity that saved your life or improved your chances of survival, right? So, being respected by the tribe will give you a lot of dopamine, right? That's why we clap. Because we're like, yay! And that's why the guy that's receiving the clapping gets that feeling, right? We invented the clap so that we can send Wi-Fi some dopamine to the guy who just said something, right? And this is how, us computer engineers and code programmers tapped into the like button. Yeah. We created the like button, probably one of the most valuable patents in the world, the like button, that just, it's a virtual applause. Yeah. That your tribe approves of you. Bullshit, they don't know you, they don't know what you did, and you just showed your butt in a post, and now people are liking it. So now you feel like the tribe will light you on fire, will throw you to the lions. There's no tribe, right? But when we do things in groups, and when we do this type of exercise, we release all kinds of hormones. When we do cold exposure, we release some hormones. When we do breath work, now we send ourselves into this hypoxic state, and then we recover ourselves. So now our brain gets to give us dopamine for saving your own life. That's a natural dopamine release. So now all of a sudden you're starting to retrain your dopamine system to fire naturally instead of fire artificially, right? If you go towards the natural route, you're always going to go towards the healthy route. The more you reestablish a natural pattern of living, the healthier you're automatically going to be. We don't need this artificial interference or assistance into our life to become healthy. Our body is constantly trying to be healthy. That's the job of a lot of your cells. They're constantly trying to bring you naturally to wellness. Your body is always rebuilding, always reconstructing itself. What we have to do is get out of your way, which is another concept that we talked about. You just got to get out of the way, and the system will do what the system does, right? What you did for your work, you set up your system and you got out of the way. And now your employees are like, I know what my job is, and I don't have my boss breathing down my neck, and I'm really empowered to have to problem solve instead of being shamed for not knowing everything.
Not doing it fast enough.
For not doing it at Adderall speed with founding member information that I don't have, right? So if you just create a system that runs efficiently and you just get out of the way of the system, it'll either run or not, and then it'll need your intervention or it won't, right? Well, your body is the same. If you stop fucking with your body by overstressing it, by poisoning it, by overworking it instead of letting it rest and recover, by never exposing it to natural light or pure oxygen, right? So as long as you stop depriving your body or your whole being of nature, right? it'll restore its own balance, and you'll be fit, and you'll be strong. People ask, how much do you work out? I'm like, the least possible, right? Right? So the minimum effective dose, how long do you stay in an ice bath? As little as possible. How often do you go to the office? Never, if I can get away with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For us, minimum effective dose, that was a good one too.
That's
right?
another one. Yeah.
So see, for me, what I do, and I like teaching my clients, is I'll use whatever tool I have to teach you how the whole system works. So you were interested in cold exposure because it was good for you. It was really good for you because it reset your body, right? It really did reset your relationship with your physical body, right? You went from this is just this meat bag that I'm in, to now it's like, well, I better take care of this thing, right? But we needed to shock it enough times and let it feel what natural state feels like, so that you're like, you know what, let me stop putting artificial things in it. Mm-hmm. And that's how now you've lost weight and looking good and looking way healthier and cleaner and sharper, right?
Yeah.
Your attention right now is so good, where before you were on Adderall and still struggling to pay attention to it, I would say. This is amazing. And all you did was take stuff out.
Yeah.
It wasn't more. It was actually less.
It was a simplification process.
Right. You just eliminated a bunch of contamination, and now you can think. Now, the reason why people resist doing that is because they are scared of the effort that it will take to fix what's broken once they realize it.
Yeah.
Right? But once again, we got to kill the baby in the car. We have to be brave enough to really look at what this would cost us if we don't change, and start doing the practices that we need. Breathwork and cold exposure are like, I'm throwing you you're in the water, you're drowning, I'm throwing you the lifesaver.
Yeah.
Right? But people are like, but what about psychedelics? So what about going to Peru and doing a journey? What about hormone replacement therapy? What about chelation and detoxing? What about, whatever the fuck? And I'm like, stop fucking with it.
Yeah.
Like, stop getting in the way of it.
You're overcomplicating.
That's your brain
coming
up with another thing that you're not really gonna do for real, right? That you're really not gonna be able to commit because you don't have time. We already established that.
Yeah.
Right? So we're gonna pick some other complicated thing. How about I join another group? How about I got another shrink? How about I get another coach? Stop. You know what you need to do. Just stop. Just stop adding stuff. Remember, more is not better. The only thing that's better is better. And when you start looking, better is actually less. Comes from less because you have more time to actually slow down and be like, this guy is actually really good at this job, but I have him in this job. Why don't we move him to this job? That takes you stopping for a second,
Now, Donato, I was exposed to you 1 hour a week, and some weeks we skipped.
Right, so I would say like average 2 hours a month.
2 hours a month.
Is that fair?
And it is fair. And it took me years to change.
Yes.
To exercise that muscle.
Yes.
You have something going on now in North Carolina. You have an immersive experience. I want to talk about this. Not only do I want to go, I want to create a group of my people and take them over there. Talk to us about what you're doing in North Carolina.
The North Carolina project is called Six Fields. Six Fields is it's finally the integrative living experience. I call it Six Fields because it's based on the 6 fields of human endeavor, which is the basis of the integrative living model that we've worked with. This place is a wellness resort. If I have to call it, and we've been struggling to call it something that people understand what it is. And the reason why I needed a name for it is because we just pitched it to the county. And they're like, what are you trying to build? And you got to explain it to people who are in the building department. You need to explain what you're building. So it's like, okay, we're building a wellness resort. And that's really a good way to describe it. It is a place where you go to chill, to have fun, to vacation, and to experience integrative living. To be in a place where everything around you stimulates these 6 fields of human endeavor: mental presence, movement, rest and relaxation, harmony with the environment, proper nutrition, and fun. right? And these concepts, as you've learned them, they're endless. They're endless concepts that you can continue to develop. A lot of people are like, I eat okay. I'm like, I'm not talking, proper nutrition is not about eating. It is about eating, but it's about everything that goes in. So a lot of us are overstimulated. So in this place, there's that lack of stimulation. There's the architecture, the design, the communication, the interaction with the employees, the interaction with the staff and the guests is curated so it's not stimulating, so that it is actually always triggering a relaxation response. You're encouraged to spend a lot of time in nature. So the rooms are designed to invite you to go to nature instead of to stay locked up in your room with your laptop, right? We frown upon cell phones and laptops, right? Like you're not allowed to work in the common areas. You're not allowed to have phone conversations in common areas. So we create this environment where you can rest from the hyperstimulation that we've created, where it's okay for everyone to be on speakerphone all the time and noise and all of that. So the idea is for you to experience yourself in a very natural state. You're still allowed to do your work in your room. You're still allowed to have your calls in your room so that you're not interrupting the other people's process, right? And we're also interacting with nature. We're interacting with the cold. We have creeks and waterfalls. We're interacting with the cold.
You're doing the ice baths.
Absolutely. We're doing the ice baths
exercises.
in the most natural way. We have a few different areas for movement practices. We have we're in the process of developing a pretty nice dojo for people that like martial arts. Beautiful yoga studio, beautiful meditation areas, a lot of vistas, a lot of hiking within the land. We have 800 feet of elevation gain within the property. So you can hike, you can climb. We're going to have an open fire Argentinian style barbecue restaurant that's going to be very healthy and very minimal and very clean. We have a farm to raise a lot of to grow a lot of our vegetables. We have partnerships with local ethical grass-fed, grass-finished farms that take care of animals beautifully, that are, like you can see the cow that you're going to eat tonight, type of thing. So we're really creating an environment where we really give an opportunity for people to experience this life. It's not an education center. It's not a retreat center. It's not programming dependent. It's more than anything that you can go there on vacation. You can go by yourself. You can go with your group. You can go with your family. You can even, long-term, we have a vision for creating a village within where people can move in and live there permanently if that's what they want. So it's a beautiful, beautiful project. We're in the early stages of it. We secured the land last year. You know that I've been looking for land since 2016. So the first thing that we did there was start clearing out the land. I moved all my tools, all my motorcycles, all my sports cars. So every time I go there, I drive around. So that's fun. So I take care of the fun first, right? And we encourage fun. We encourage you having a good time. Having a good time in a healthy and natural way. So we have fishing trips, we have motorcycle trips, sports cars rides. We have really beautiful restaurants that we partner with, so the dining is really dialed in. And we also have partnerships with breweries, with distilleries, with coffee roasters. So for me, I want some intoxicants in the mix too, and really develop a healthy relationship with all of that too. So for us, we're not restrictive. We're not we're not trying to create an experience that's restrictive, but an experience that teaches people how to truly enjoy the pleasures of life and to really restore, instead of abuse the pleasures of life and dig yourself deeper into a problem, right? Because right now people, like you said, are overcorrecting. So now when you go to a wellness retreat, it's like you're signing up for a boot camp or something.
It's another extreme.
It's another extreme that is not going to stick. So instead, we're trying to show this kind of like, okay, this is how you could live every day. And we're trying to teach people that you can live on vacation, right? That your life should resemble your vacation more than your work, right? So that you can find this place where your life is fun, where your life is enjoyable, where you have free time, where you have like-minded people, that you're like-minded because you have shared passions, not shared obsessions. That's my main thing with entrepreneurs groups. Okay, yeah, let's just loop it harder all together, right? So this is about creating this place where people can go and experience for a weekend, for a week, just a different way of hanging out and having a good time and living, and seeing that it's very possible and very achievable. So the idea is that people are going to go there my mission, my purpose for this is that people are going to go there and come back home inspired with a realistic concept of wellness instead of this overcorrective concept of wellness. You're not sick. You're just in the way of your health. You see what I mean? It's like nobody is sick. This is a concept that we invented so that we could sell you medicine. But the reality is that we're not sick. We're just interrupting our health. So if we stop being in the way, then we get healthy. So this is a place where you can just, the moment you walk in, you're like, holy crap, I feel it right away. You know, so, you know, like one of the things that we do is that right away is that you can't drive your car into the property. You have to leave your car outside. And then we give you a really cool off-road golf cart. And now you're like, oh crap, man, I'm driving this cool, fun vehicle. So right away, I'm asking you to change things and to have fun and to take it easier and to not be so stuck.
And people can book now? Is
right now, open? No, we're not open yet.
We're
not open yet. We're probably going to start taking in early reservations the end of 2024.
Okay.
So your group will probably get priority access. You know.
Okay.
So I think that's a trademark of some company. So, but you guys will come in and we'll have a good time. We're still curating it. We're still going through through permits and stuff. But what's really cool is that we were so well received by the community and by the county. We're in the mountains of North Carolina. We're 40 minutes west of Asheville. Mm-hmm. So you can fly in and you can, door to door from where we live here in Florida, it's 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man. It's a really, really good time. This is why it's been so hard for us to connect, because I'm spending so much time over there.
It's a big project.
It's a big project, but you know what? For me, it is, because a lot of people ask us, so what's next for you, right? And you're always talking about working less and doing less. This doesn't sound like working less and doing less at all. And the truth, the way that I manage this is that, first of all, from the get-go, I created an amazing team of people that are helping me execute this project, right? I'm by default knowing that as this grows, I have to work less, right? So by design, in the business plan, in the numbers, there's a team that does most of the work so that I can stay creative, so that I can stay the person that creates the culture, so that I can continue to honestly be the director and not the operator. Right? So, of course, at the beginning, like, am I there, with a chainsaw doing it? Yeah, but you know why? Because I love it. Because I love the experience, and because also at the early stages, it's really beneficial for you to be involved in the nitty-gritty, so that then you can inspire other people to show up, right? To specialize. You can inspire people to specialize.
Yeah.
Like the owner really should kind of know every how to be. Like if anyone doesn't show up to work, the owner should be able to replace that person.
Yeah.
That's an opinion, right? But that should never be the case, because the reality is that you should have 5 people jumping on the grenade for you, because you've inspired so many people that now everyone knows how the machine works, right? So that's what I'm doing, and that's how I'm creating it. And for me, this is my retirement project. When we were working, I turned 40 as we were working together. I'm turning 42 this year, and I want this to be my retirement place. One of the people that I recruited was my dad. Mm-hmm. He is the smartest man I know. Mm-hmm. He is an engineer that finished his career as a human resources director. Mm-hmm. So he knows how the machine works, and he also understands people pretty well. So I brought him into the project because he's struggling with retirement, because he doesn't know what to do. So he is in charge of all the technologies and figuring out things. So he's doing research, he's sending me links, he's doing a lot of stuff. So I'm empowering even my dad to collaborate on a project with me and to use all his skills that are just laying there dormant, torturing him, to do fun stuff. So
that's pretty cool.
So see, it's like there's a way for us to enjoy life and still achieve amazing things that are going to make a big difference on other people's lives. But it can never be at the expense of your own health. And it has
nothing to do with money.
Oh, no.
It has nothing to do with money.
Oh, no, because you know what? I get out of the way of money.
Yeah.
And money comes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look, I've been financially sustainable since I'm 16 years old. Mm-hmm. And it didn't come because I always worked, right? My parents are not rich, you know what I mean? I think I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth type of thing. We grew up, we were up middle class, to be fair, right? But I've been independent financially, and it has been because number one, I'm not afraid to roll my sleeves if I have to, but at the same time, I always know that I am impossible to be unemployed, because I've developed so many skills. Like right now, if all else fails, I can go to a bar and mix drinks. I can go to a mechanic shop and fix cars. I can go to a construction company and do whatever. I can go to a furniture place and fix some furniture. I can go to an office and sweep the floor. I can go to an office and be their wellness director. I don't care. Like, I'm impossible to be unemployed, right? But the truth is that I get out of the way and the opportunities come. And if people understand this, you know, I mean, religious people get it. I mean, they have their own situation, but religious people can say, just let Jesus take the wheel. Yeah. I'm saying kind of the same thing, where it's like, just get out of the way. Get out of the way and trust your subconscious brain. And the subconscious brain of everyone around you. Nobody here wants this company to take a dump. Just get out of the way a little bit and see who shows up. Yeah. You know, be brave. Take the risk, right? So the biggest advice that we could leave your listeners with is be brave to look at what it would cost you to not change, right? And then be brave to get out of the way, right? And to see if you can develop some elegance, right? Can you be the guy that shows up, 2 days a week in the office and everyone's like, oh shit, he's here, right? And they're like, okay, so what are we talking about? And they're like, well, we have this major problem. Look at this red line going down. And you're like, oh, well, maybe if we did that. And everyone in the meeting room, they're like, and that's why he runs this shit, right? And you're like, okay, well, guys, see you later. I'm going to go kite surfing now.
Sounds like what I do nowadays.
Well, brother, man, I had to hammer that thing in your head.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy that you're enjoying what you're doing, and that the like you said, we got together 2-3 hours a month for a few years. So when we put it all together, we got together, what, 30 hours?
Yeah.
And now you're doing this work. So it's not that what I do is amazing, because what I do is not for everybody, right? Because a lot of people just don't want to do it. A lot of people are too convinced. And then, okay, I'm not going to fight to convince. I mean, if you're convinced, brother. You know, I'm not going to, what can I say, right? But you were curious and you were willing to do the work. And yeah, at the beginning you struggled with your resistances, but eventually you caught momentum. We also killed the baby in the car for you, right? We really went deep and dark, right? And there was a moment where things were starting to get rough, and then you came back and you're like, no, we really need to double down on these efforts. Now I'm ready to do the work, and boom, and here we are having fun doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Where back in the day, you didn't even have time to drive your car. So I am so happy, brother, to see you smiling, to see you healthy, to see you strong, and also to finally see you come up with a vehicle that you can help inspire other people.
Yeah.
And I'm also very inspired we're very excited to see your next chapter running this entrepreneurs group, to see if you can bring some of these lessons to them instead of just building another group, another inrush of emails. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you guys,
thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you for coming, man. And hopefully one of these next sessions for these podcasts, we'll do it in North Carolina.
Oh, that'd be amazing, brother. Let's do this.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Love you, man.
All right.
Awesome.
That was long, man.
That was good.
Yeah. That was
Of
awesome.
course, you're not going to get me to talk for 45 minutes.
You guys are gonna, the editors are gonna have fun with this one.